Now, members of Stokvel saving schemes in South Africa continue to show resilience under the tough economic climate. The makeup of Stokvels continue to change with the times, but the principles of trust and community benefit remain the core of management and growth. Now, for more on this conversation, we are now joined by Stokvel X, the founder and director, who is Neo Mohlatlole, whose organization is currently holding an exhibition for Stokvels and other service providers. Neo, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, Stokvels in South Africa have been embedded in our history. We know that our grandparents have sent children to school on Stokvels. They've extended homes on Stokvels. What do you think it is about the formula of Stokvels, if implemented successfully, is so right?
I think Stokvels are a big part of our culture. Like you're saying, our grandparents have been running them, and they handed that over to our parents, to us. And I think post-democracy, we're moving more towards a nuclear type setting.
Right.
And the Stokvels help bring that sense of community. And I think one of the key things, I mean, the inflation has been insane. So with Stokvels, people are able to save and almost stretch their money to go a little further. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, the evolution of the Stokvels, almost once the kids are out of the house, you no longer need that big grocery that you used to get. So then they change and redirect that funds for other things. So typical Stokvels would start as a burial Stokvel.
Yes.
Like nobody's dying, so you've got additional funds to say, okay, maybe let's redirect that for something else. Extend the house, take the kids to better schools, rotate that money in that way. Yeah.
Speaking of that evolution, I mean, like you say, it was savings for burials, it was savings for groceries. What are we seeing now as the trend for Stokvels?
So one of the more exciting ones is more travel.
Okay.
So a lot of the older men and women, the kids out of the house, they still have that extra cash that they used to spend. So now, in the past, most of our groups in Soweto, every Jan, December, they're in Belawela. And it's I'm sure it's fun, but there are other destinations you can try out. So I think the opportunities there that we like is that there are black-owned establishments that take them in. So in the past, we'd come to your house for a Stokvel meeting, and now that, let's book at a lodge, let's book at a... So the tourism sector is benefiting quite a lot from Stokvels. Because if they come to your house, and there's delays and stuff, but if you're hosted, nobody's stressed about officer nama and some of the stuff, so it becomes quite easy. So watching that diversion and that growth has been quite interesting, yeah.
That's very, very interesting. But we also know that Stokvels have had a bumpy road over the years. It's been a learning curve for many people who are involved in Stokvels. Having so much experience in working with Stokvels, what would you say are the common mistakes that Stokvels make?
So what we try and do at Stokvel X, I think we did our research and we noticed, especially around this period, that's why we have our shows around this time, a lot of them are about to start withdrawing their savings and the investments. So there's a lot of excitement now. It's just like, oh, this bulk is coming. We're going to go to Katlaho's house and split it. So the risks around handling cash, and also like the grocery Stokvels, they buy groceries, but they didn't come with a bakkie. So they just get a bakkie on the side of the road. However, if it's out, the bakkie leaves.
Oh, no.
So there's like a lot of horror stories around. So we're trying to almost enlighten them on, firstly, the Stokvel market is worth around 45 billion rand. So just to awaken them to that, to say, you're part of that, protect yourself more. And our key message has always been, if it's too good to be true, it's definitely a scam. So a lot of them think, I've withdrawn this 200,000, which we were going to split between ourselves, but my cousin so-and-so says there's a Forex thing here where they can get 600. Then they lose it, and then the trust is then eroded.
Right.
So it becomes a bit tricky. So we always try, especially around this period, where a lot of them are targets. So guys know that, okay, these groups are going to be drawing their cash. So different banks have systems that are easy. Instead of drawing the cash, transfer it to the members from the bank, so that it limits the risk. Groceries also, with some wholesalers, they've got a delivery option.
Okay.
So you can be able to engage and see how you do it in a way that does not affect your members and your relationships.
So you speak of educating people through Stokvel X, and this was established in 2014.
Yes.
Just tell us what the objective was and how does it work?
So 2013, 2014, we worked in exhibitions. My co-founder, Eugene Mametsi, and I put this together. We did a bit of research and we noticed that the value that sits with Stokvels is a lot. But a lot of them is not fully realized. And I think once you know your worth, you almost act differently. So we've noticed that a lot of them is just like, that's an easy thing. So when we started creating our database, we were CoBri and different taxi ranks, just filling out information. So we asked the lady, okay, how much do you contribute to your Stokvel? And she's like, 250. But when she filled out the questionnaire, there's an option that says type of Stokvel, So there's burial, investment, savings, travel, and education. And she had selected 4 paths. At the end, she's like, yo, mali. She thought she was paying 250, but she was paying 250 to 4 Stokvels. So that led me to say, okay, there actually is money. How do I use it to almost grow myself and grow my community better? We've worked with Northwest Economic Development. We had a partnership where we're helping convert some Stokvels into cooperatives and helping build a bridge between cooperatives and the Stokvel model. So with cooperatives, a lot of them, once they get their GTI funding, they start fighting. But with Stokvels, they really trust each other with their money. So essentially just create a product that you can sell for Stokvels in your community. So almost stimulating the local economy that way. So that was, I think, one of the pilots that we worked on to try and just turn the conversation around.
And how successful was that pilot? I mean, how many companies or cooperatives did you see them growing beyond just the pilot?
So they set up quite a few. So what we did, our partnership with the department is that we moved, there's 5 districts. So each year we went to a different district. And they copied, they followed the model, and they ran with it. So some of the cooperatives, they would set up and wait for government work. So see, but if you're an agriculture co-op, you've got fresh produce, so you need to sell that quite regularly. So you look at burial Stokvels and also event Stokvels, supply them. They're already in your area. You already know the needs of the community. So it started becoming easier from that level. And then you also have financial co-ops. So they have the Tobotla financial co-op, which is still quite strong. It's not as big as VBS, but it's still also one of the financial co-ops that are still standing.
Right.
Yeah.
How big is the movement of Stokvels in more affluent areas within more of your middle class? I mean, are we seeing Stokvels of people buying and building houses as opposed to just that extension of rooms at the back of my house?
There's 2 pockets. So you and I sort of grew up on the Stokvels. We're doing slightly better. We moved into better neighborhoods. We have more money to invest. So those are referred to as investment clubs.
Okay.
So it's not Stokvels. So the Stokvels are the guys that we speak to, that we engage with. They save between 250 and 1,003. So we would put like 5,000 and above. So those then, there's a gentleman, Kacheni, he buys properties through the thing. So they different Stokvels that work with him buy different properties and investment properties around the township and also in urban areas. So there is that evolution, because we've seen our parents do it, we've seen our grandparents do it. It's like, it works. If you just pull the money together, you can be able to access more opportunities.
More opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, with Stokvel X, you've been running since 2014, but the COVID pandemic sort of gave a halt to some of the things that you do. What were the lessons that you learned from that period in time?
I think as a bystander, because we watch the Stokvels and see how resilient they are, because I think a lot of the burial Stokvels lost quite a bit in that period. But also the saving Stokvels, a lot of people were let go, but there's a way that they carry each other.
Yes.
I think the sense of community really came through. But I think from us as an organization, so this is our first show since 2019. So it's also like a nice comeback. So also I think when we started Stokvel X in 2014, a lot of companies did not have Stokvel specific products. And that has evolved from our conversation, from the thing. So it's also quite important. You met with marketing managers and you say, we want you to come on board for this show. And the lady says, oh, Stokvels are not our target market. They're like, how? They buy all your stuff in October, November. And she's like, oh, wholesalers buy that. Then you have to explain the whole value chain that the Stokvels are the ones buying from the wholesalers. So there's like different conversations that we've been having. But I think now the responses are much better than we were,
Where do you see the Stokvel industry in South Africa in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we're having the right conversations. I definitely see Stokvels almost being venture capitalists funding businesses within township and rural areas that they understand. So one of the things we're talking about is that a lot of the actuarial scientists at the main banks, when you're asking for money, they measure you in line with a certain ratio. But almost as a Stokvel, you understand a business that can make sense in your township. And you've got the discretion to be able to fund your members' kids. So we're able to stimulate the economy from the bottom up. And I think with the conversations that we're having and the partnerships that we have with the leading agencies, we are able to actually turn it around and have, because it's always seen as the informal economy. And it's been on that side. But if it comes in properly, we're going, That's going to be magical.
Most certainly. You have your next one coming up on the 24th and 26th of November.
Yes.
What advice would you have for Stokvels attending? How can they best maximize their experience?
Okay, so at the show, we've got different service providers.
Okay.
So the idea on Stokvel X is that an investment Stokvel comes on site. We've got National Treasury. They've got their retail savings bonds. So they've recently launched a product that specifically speaks to Stokvels. So in the past, their bonds used to be 3- and 5-year options. So after engaging with Stokvels through the shows, they've actually realized Stokvels want to withdraw their money at the end of the year. So we'll put in the deposit. So now they've created a product that allows Stokvels to withdraw that kind of money. We've got travel companies that are on board as well. We've got top tea towels for those that are doing renovations. So they're coming through. They've got prizes that they're giving away. So I think Stokvel groups, a lot of them come on site saying, we're an investment Stokvel. But when they see the travel packages and they see the others, they're like, oh, actually, we should do that.
We could.
So I think if you're a Stokvel member or just a curious individual, come to the show from the 24th to the 26th at Nasrec, Johannesburg Expo Center. So we've got a variety of exhibitors, finance, burial, travel, leisure, and also I think what I'm excited about, the top tea feature. They're giving away, I think, 10,000 Rand worth of vouchers. So a lot of Stokvels you already have something to build up to whatever you're extending or you're building,
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. You're doing great work with Stokvels, especially in the evolution of. We wish you all the best with your endeavors, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So that was Stokvel X founder and director Neo Mohlatlole speaking to us there about the upcoming Stokvel X, which is taking place in Nasrec at the end of November.